It's a big question. If your future clients were to Google you right now, right, would they really get a sense of who you are? I don't know about you, but I find that everything looks the same today. I was just thinking about this a lot. It's all the sameness. Everything is the same. But in a world like that, that's when your personal brand is the thing that makes you stand out. It makes people stop. It makes them listen. And funny how this works, trust. So looking forward to today's episode with my special guest, Dr. Pieter de Villiers.
Welcome to Propulsion, the weekly show for financial planners and advisors who want to build better, more successful businesses. I'm your host, Francois du Toit, and every week we dive into the practical strategies that matter, from growing your client base and improving your services to developing yourself and your team. Whether you're running your own practice or you're part of a larger firm, you are guaranteed to find actionable insights to help your business thrive. So with that, welcome, and let's get into today's episode.
Fantastic. So now I'm really excited to get into it with Pieter. But before I bring Pieter onto the screen and introduce him to you, let me tell you a little bit about Pieter. He's a veterinarian turned lifestyle financial planner, and he's now helping high net worth individuals and professionals take control of their financial futures at Freedom Financial Planning. All had Brian on the show before, Brian Nicol. So he's joined there. And he's currently working towards his postgraduate diploma in financial planning, and he's passionate about improving financial literacy in South Africa through his platform, Money Marks. So you need to go check out Money Marks on YouTube. Pieter also co-hosts the Honest Money podcast with Warren Ingram, and where they share valuable insights on personal finance and wealth building. And his mission is, this is brilliant, his mission is to empower 1 million South Africans to enhance their financial lives with a combination of technical expertise and an approachable style. So it's a pleasure to have you. Pieter, welcome to the show.
Francois, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here, and I'm really looking forward to today's topic. It's something very close to my heart.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And I first heard about your channel about a year ago at when we attended I attended your year-end function, and then I heard about this. Oh, I didn't know you have a channel. And then, what was the conference last year in June, if I remember correctly? We had this conversation around the table, and it was like, wow, okay. So it's really amazing to hear your story. And I want to sort of kick things off and go, why do you believe, Kobus just spoke about, personal branding, all that stuff, but why do you particularly believe that a strong personal brand is such a valuable asset for financial planners today?
Yeah, I think Kobus summed it up very, very well. It's people buy into people. They buy into trust factors. So if we take an example, when you ever go and you want to buy something, like we briefly spoke about a nice chair, an office chair, you don't just go to the shop and pick the first thing that you find. You do research. You go online, you look at reviews, and most of the time, the thing that influences your decision is the amount of reviews, and that means the amount of trust that has been built. So building a digital footprint, what that means is you are already putting yourself out there, so you become visible. People can see your face, they can hear your voice, they can hear your thoughts, they can learn your values. And the more they see that and they hear that, the more senses are engaged and the more the trust factor is built. So then when they are ready to engage with whatever service or product that you have to offer, you don't have to convince them of who you are. They already know that. They've already built that. And somewhere you probably mentioned something that resonated with them, and they are now ready to engage. So that is doing a lot of the heavy lifting for you before you even sitting in front of someone, in front of a potential prospect, because you have spent the time to give free, unconditional value to society. And the universe just has a way of working that comes back to benefit you overall as a business. So I think in today's day and age, it's not an if or when, it's more so you have to start doing that. You have to start building a brand behind your business, because that's what people will buy into at the end of the day.
One of the things you've done, which is quite interesting to me, is that obviously you've made this transition from being a veterinarian into being a financial planner. I mean, that's like a 180, right? So it's like complete opposites, I would almost say, both professional, but very, very different. And I think a lot of people, what would be valuable is just maybe, how did you do that? How did you manage that? And how was that? I mean, how did you manage to evolve that brand? Is it something that you started from scratch? Is it something that you built on top of the previous brand that, or sort of, let's say, the identity that you had as a veterinarian? And the reason why I think this is such an important question to ask you is, maybe you're a financial planner, or maybe you're a broker, or maybe you're a financial advisor, but you want to transition into something else, and you want to rebuild your brand, you want to reposition your brand. Maybe there's a connection there. So how did you do that? And was it an easy thing? How did it evolve, over time?
Yeah, so I kind of accidentally started creating videos. It was back in 2020 COVID time, where the world was just mull. And people back then, I was still a vet, and what I experienced at that point in time was a lot of misinformation being shared around viruses, and that led to people, abandoning their pets and dropping them off at the side of the road, and even sending them for euthanasia just because they thought they will be infected through their pets, and that was like a big no for me. So I was like, okay, maybe people don't just understand viruses, because it is quite a complex thing. So that was the first video I ever created on my veterinary channel. It was just to cover COVID as a topic and to explain how viruses really work, and that no, your pets cannot infect you. And then that was kind of a big step for me, because I wasn't used to making videos. It was just to share information, and the intention was just to create one video and share it for whoever needs to look at it. But then I saw there's a lot of engagement on that, and people started asking questions, and I realized that for me to create videos on certain topics could help me in the clinical setting to help clients, patients, to explain a complex disease. It takes time, and I don't have a lot of time in a consult to do that, and to do a diagnosis, and to create a pre-treatment plan. So I started creating videos around pet topics, pet health topics that I could refer my clients to. And then that started gaining traction. And in my own journey of discovering how money works, because, school teaches us a lot about it, I had to start learning building my own financial knowledge. And for me to understand something better, I need to really dissect it and into the granular level. And then also to better understand it is, if you can explain it, then you've mastered a topic. So if I knew that if I'm going to spend all this time researching topics, I might as well create videos. And then that's where Money Marks, the financial channel, started back in 2021, where launched that was when I graduated as a vet, I went to end-to-end to get a data bundle of 200 Rand. And they told me I don't qualify because I don't have a credit score. And back then I didn't even know what that was. So that's my first video on my Money Marks channel. It's like, what is a credit score? Because I don't know. And from there, it kind of evolved. And it was just following my own interests of topics that I wanted to learn as a vet back then in the finance space. And that built up over time. And the more questions I received, the more videos I created, up to a point where I realized, it's nice to share information, and you can help people in very far that way. But some people needed more than that. And that's why I made the leap into the financial planning space, and which is what I'm doing full time now, studying towards the postgrad. And now I can actually help give, financial advice. So it wasn't a specific intention in the beginning to really build a business around it. It was mostly just trying to share factual, valuable information for free and to help others. I think that's always the key, is the intention behind it should be to give and not to expect something in return. But just so it happens that it helped me to now make a big career transition, which was scary. It's almost 2 years now. But it has really bolstered my career in financial planning, because I already had a following of individuals that already built that a know, like, and trust factor, which means that the pipeline of prospects is very strong from those early days of creating content, those early followers. So yes, it's to build a brand, it takes time, but it's just consistency, adding value to society unconditionally, and never having kind of like a nefarious intention at the end of expecting something back. It's you have to always do it for the right reasons, I believe, because then it will sustain itself.
Yeah. And so 2 more follow-up questions on this part. Like, one, why video and not audio? So why did you go with YouTube and not just start a podcast like most people did back then? Why did you choose video specifically?
I think when I look at kind of leveraging your time in the best way possible. And I did a lot of research on this recently as well, in how do you build trust. And I think, again, the more senses you engage of someone, the higher chance you have of engaging with them. So reading something, if it's a written blog, that helps. That's one sense. Listening to something, audio podcast, that's another sense. That's better. But video is listening, seeing, and engaging, and hearing. So those are kind of like the epitome of engagement, I think, as far as we have technology at this stage. So it's a way to better engage with someone, and I think it also helps you get a competitive edge. I think at some point blogging was still a competitive industry, but I think AI has just obliterated that space. It's very difficult to compete with the major algorithms of Google. So I think for me it was to see how can I also, when you explain something visually, people learn easier. It's better to have things on the screen that kind of delivers the point as opposed to just verbal. So that's kind of, and I just had an interest in that. I just liked great videos. I thought it's a nice skill to develop, and it's also a creative outlet for me to create a video. It's for me it's an art. It's a way to engage my right brain with my left brain, and to create something valuable, that could help someone better understand something. So video, I think, is the future. And yes, it takes time to learn. There's a lot of skills that you need to learn of scripting, editing, filming, all of that. But it comes with time, and it helps you to just have that little edge above maybe the next person that's not willing to do that.
Yeah. How I view it, so the video thing is like, I think there's no more powerful thing, or more powerful way online to build trust than to look each other in the eye, even though you can't really see each other, and I think that's one of the things with video, is that people really feel like they know you. It's incredible to see the power of that, and what happens over time. So that's absolutely amazing. And also, what does a good personal brand look like, Peter? So specifically, let's say I want to build, I'm a planner and I want to build a brand, and I want to stand out, but I don't want to be famous. Because a lot of people, I think, they think building a brand equals wanting to be a celebrity, or being famous, or being, sort of recognized when you go to the shop and that kind of stuff. But what does that look like from your opinion, if that's not what I want?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think being famous is fun at all. I think it sucks, because you can't really live a normal life anymore. So my view around that, typically the word that gets thrown around is influencer, and that's a word that I don't particularly like, and it's something that I think has become very diluted in recent years, with now everyone suddenly with a camera is an influencer. But the core principle of the word influencer is to influence someone to maybe change behavior, or to engage in a certain service. So I think it can still be used for good. So to become a good personal brand, I think it just remains always at the core of being authentically yourself. Be who you are. Because if you're going to try and copy someone else, it's not going to work. You have the one unique competitive advantage that no one can ever compete with you, and that's being you. And in a world of how many 8-9 billion people, whatever you have to say, there's going to be a community of people that resonates with that. Now, you're probably not building a financial planning practice to reach 9 billion people, but even in your city, or in your country, in your circles, there will be someone that resonates with who you are and what your values are. And I think in a financial planning setting, you don't need thousands of people to like you. You maybe need 100 or a couple hundred people that really resonates with how you think and how you are. And that's going to ultimately become your ideal clients. We all know the type of clients we like to work with, and those we don't. And that's fine, because there may be other planners that can resonate with the others. So being yourself automatically will attract people that think the same way as you. And those may just become clients that will just make you happier, because you've built something authentic. So being yourself and really sticking to your values, I think that's very important. It's easy in today's day and age to overreact to news and to kind of have knee-jerk emotional reactions. And we all know about the keyboard warriors just trying to cause conflict all the time. And I don't think that's very valuable. To always feel, before you say something online, is to ask yourself, am I adding value to this conversation? Am I saying something constructive or productive? And again, I think helping others, if the core of what you do is always to help others, then you will build a successful personal brand, and you will attract the right type of people. And definitely, you don't have to, not everyone has to like you. If you start on this journey, you'll find that some people won't agree with what you say, and they won't like what you say, and they'll make it certain that you see and hear their opinions, and that's fine. It's, we're all entitled to our own views, but it's also okay, because you're not building a practice to service everyone. You're building a practice to service those who resonate with who you are and what you believe in. And in that space, it becomes a lot easier to just be yourself. And what I would add to that is it's good to look at other people and how they are doing it, and to draw inspiration, and to use those kind of core aspects that makes them successful, and use that to help inspire your own work, but always remain to what is core to who you are and who you want to serve.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Obviously, there's a lot of mistakes that we make. I certainly made a few mistakes. Even this morning, we had a few mistakes creep in. Some of them you can control, and some of them you can't. So let's talk about the ones that we can control, right? So those are important. Are there some common mistakes that you see we make online, or that content creators make online when they try to build their personal brand?
I think in the beginning, it's just overwhelm. It's trying to do everything everywhere. It's like analysis paralysis, because now, do I use LinkedIn? Do I use YouTube? Do I use TikTok or Instagram, WhatsApp? Where do I start? And that oftentimes leads to just spreading yourself too thin, too early, trying to do everything at once, and then doing nothing at all, because nothing works. So focus is very important. If you're gonna go down this route, choose one platform, one type of content, and just repeat it. Just put out quantity. It doesn't have to be perfect. And to be honest, it's never going to be perfect. Believe me, your first video will suck. Your second video will probably also suck. My videos still suck, I believe, to some extent. But at least every year that you reflect back on last year's videos, you should have improved. So I think that the mistake that I made was in the beginning just trying to do everything everywhere, and trying to build different skills at the same time. And it does involve quite a bit of skills to build up, but rather focus on one thing and get good at one platform, because the algorithms also work differently. So instead of trying to be everywhere, just focus on one. And it also takes time. So you need to have the right time investment to be successful. And then if you have only one platform that you focus on, if you have time off, if you're eating lunch, or you're walking around, going for a walk, listen to podcasts, listen to YouTube videos on how can you improve on that specific platform. Because if you can get really good on one platform, that will be enough for your business. You don't have to be everywhere. So yeah, I'll say lack of focus is probably the biggest rookie error that I probably still make.
Yeah, I think we all find it sort of that. And then, are you distracted or focused? Let me just say, are you focused on, but maybe also distracted by metrics? So if you look at the number of views you're getting, and the number of subscribers you have, and how many followers you have, and all those good things, how big your LinkedIn network is, do you focus on those? Do you find it that it's useful? Do you find it a distraction? Going back to, you want to be authentic and you want to do things for the right reason. Are those things still important to you to take note of?
I used to, in the beginning, focus a lot on those things, and I think it's probably a journey that you have to go on, especially on YouTube. Kind of your biggest milestone is the first 1,000 subscribers. Then you hit like the first little congratulations, well done, you've made it. And now, 5 years later, I believe all those things are just vanity metrics. It's nice to kind of like put it somewhere and say, I've got X amount of subscribers, or I get X amount of views. But what you have to be careful of is attaching your value, or the value of what you do, to those metrics. How many people watches your videos, how many views you get, how many subscribers you have, because you don't really have control over that. And it also doesn't matter, because some channels may have millions of subscribers, but they get very few views, or the views they get may be kind of negative. So in today's day and age, you don't need again, millions of views. In fact, you don't want that. You don't want to attract people that's not part of your crowd. So I think it's good to use it as a metric to see how you improve. But remember, you're on your own journey, and the first video you're going to post, it's probably not going to get any views. It's probably going to be you, maybe your mom, watching it like 10 times, and then you feel better about yourself. And that's fine, because no one knows who you are maybe yet. So it just means you have to stick to the schedule, and you have to commit to like a specific amount of videos for over a period to really give it a good chance. But don't get obsessed about the metrics, because to be honest, also when you start out, you don't yet know how to make good videos. So it's something you'll learn with time. So you can't expect to have millions of views on your first video. It's just not how life works. You have to get good at it. And I would use it as a metric, just like with anything else in a financial planning practice. Tracking certain data points is good to measure progress, but don't obsess over it, and definitely don't give up just because your metrics looks different than someone else that has been doing it for years, because that will never be a fair comparison, and it's a losing game from the start to play.
Yeah, thanks. That's fantastic advice. So if I want to get started, right, this is obviously where people say, okay, so what the heck now? Do I ever want to do this? And I guess the big question is, before I even ask this getting started question, so if you, like, why should I even do this? I mean, Peter has done this, Kosi has done this, Sunny has done this already. They've already spoken about credit scores. They've already spoken about buying your first home and your first car and there's so many people who've done this already. Why the heck would I do this? Why is there any value in me also adding my voice and doing exactly the same thing that everybody else, it feels like, has already done?
I think we think that, and I probably also thought that, because when I started creating videos back in 2020, there were a lot of American and UK finance content creators that you can watch those videos and you'll get a lot of value from it. But they talked about Roth IRAs and 401ks and stuff like that, and I was like, what's that? I want something locally. And now today there are a couple more finance content creators, but it's definitely not not a saturated space at all, I believe. And even if it is, I always see new people popping up and being successful, because again, you've got your own unique voice and your own unique way of understanding things and explaining things. And some people just resonate with the way that you think and how you pronounce and enunciate and deliver value. So no, I think, even if you go and Google or YouTube a topic and you see there's 10 videos, go create the 11th one, because it might be that the previous videos are outdated maybe, or it may just be that the way that you phrase something is better or different. And also, if you've got clients, it's a great resource to share with them, and it's a great tool for your financial planning practice as an additional value add that you can share in your newsletters, to say like, hey guys, listen, this week we covered these topics. Here's the video. It's just another way to build up that value proposition and to engage with your tribe. And to get started, this is actually a challenge that I want to send out to everyone watching. Don't overcomplicate things. Make it as easy as possible. So go down the path of least resistance. This whole setup that I've got here is the result of 5 years of kind of buying things over time. You don't need all of this. You've got a phone, you can record and you can speak. So what I would challenge you on is pick a platform like TikTok. I think that's probably the easiest one to get started. Go and sit down, write down 30 questions that you think that your clients mostly ask you. And if you can't think of 30, ask ChatGPT, you'll get there quickly. And then record 30 videos answering those questions. Like just a selfie, take the phone in front of you, record yourself, and open a page on TikTok and start and post one video a day for 30 days. That's all. Just do that and then see what happens. Because you'll find that after you post a couple of videos, you'll start getting questions from the people watching the videos. And then you can start answering those questions. TikTok has a nice functionality to easily do that. And then you're engaging with the community. And yes, it will take time. But after 30 videos, you'll get over yourself and over your disbelief that you can't do it, because you are speaking with clients every single day answering questions. So just you record yourself and post it. and don't obsess over the editing style and cutting out the mistakes, because no one wants a robot. No one wants to watch a video of this polished. The people don't go on social media to watch Netflix documentaries. You don't have to be as polished as that. Just be yourself, answer questions, keep the ums and the ahs. I'd say as far as press record and then post. Don't even edit it in the beginning, because that will already help you to build confidence, and then you'll receive questions from people watching, and that will lead to the next video and the next video. So that's the easiest way that I'd say get started. And I'll challenge you to do that for 30 days. And if you don't like it after 30 days, then stop. You've tried it. But what I can almost tell you is, if you've done this and you've seen the impact that you're making and the result that will lead to your business, then you're probably going to continue. And I've seen a lot of financial planners doing that now recently that have become very successful. So it has been proven to work. You just have to take that leap of faith. That's just all I can really leave you with. Just do it. Be like Nike.
Yeah. It's like, it's always like the success and the growth lies on the other side of this comfort zone that you're in, or the fear that's in front of you, or whatever. So just go and do it, right? It's amazing. And then I guess, let me ask this question quickly, just around, you did mention TikTok, but how do I choose a platform? I fully agree with the statement, like, choose one and go with that. And because most of the platforms anyway, you can do multimedia. So you can have text with things, you can have video, you can have images, you can do sort of things like that. Some platforms are video only, etc. But if I was to get started today, and at least I know how to record a video, how do I choose which platform to go to? Is it about the platform, or is it about the people I'm trying to reach? And just maybe your thought on that.
Yeah, I know TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram well. So I'll kind of give a breakdown of each. TikTok, I'd say, is the lowest barriers of entry, because you can record on the app itself and you can post. And when people reply on comments, you can make a video directly. People can directly message you. So that's a way to maybe engage with potential prospects. And people on TikTok don't expect very polished content. They don't expect professional produced content. It's like just your authentic self, taking out your phone, recording a video and posting. That's what they want. The audience on TikTok, I must say, maybe a bit younger and sometimes a little bit immature. So you'll probably get the odd comments here and there where people call you out for whatever they feel the day that they want to be a keyboard warrior on. So it might not, I can say, your big clients may not be on TikTok necessarily, but it's a great platform to learn how to make good videos. YouTube is more the kind of mature content platform where the type of videos that people want to watch there is more polished and well produced, and typically longer videos. So explaining topics in a longer setting, maybe 10-minute videos, which will take time and does take more effort, but still doesn't necessarily mean you need a professional setup to get started. If you can explain something well for 10 minutes, it's also a good platform to choose. There's just no direct way for subscribers to communicate with you on YouTube. They can leave comments, but they can't direct message you as with TikTok. And then Instagram is kind of a hybrid between the two. It's an easy platform to get started because you can create short videos. People can engage with you directly through direct messaging. And the content that people expect there is not as polished as YouTube, but also not as unpolished as TikTok. It's somewhere in between. So I'd say if you kind of want the best of both worlds, then Instagram would probably be the best. But if you just want to keep it as simple as possible, TikTok. And if you maybe think about starting a video podcast in your practice where you do invest in a bit of professional equipment and you just have conversations around topics once a week of 30 minutes, then you can record that as a video, post it on YouTube, and then you have the audio that you can post on all the audio podcast platforms. And you can have someone that can use the transcript of that to create, blog posts or carousels or posts on something like LinkedIn. But that's more like kind of the phase 3 of this whole process. It's going to take time there. But I'd say as simple as possible, TikTok, that I'll start if I was starting over, and then Instagram, and then YouTube once you've actually built the skills to produce good videos.
Awesome. Then what is your one tip? If there's only one thing for people to take away from our conversation, what would you, not even if we haven't even talked about it, that's also fine. What is one thing that you do want people to go away with and maybe go and do next, apart from like the 30 days? What is there anything that you would want to leave people with today?
I'd say don't try and be perfect, because you won't be. I'm just going to bust that bubble. Again, your first video will suck, and that's okay, because probably no one's going to watch it in any case. So you will have a time to build stuff, but perfection kills progress. If you're going to try and wait for the perfect video, it's not going to happen. And it shouldn't be like that. Every year you reflect back, you should cringe at your past year videos. And believe me, I still do. And that's a good thing, because it means you've made progress, you've improved. So don't try and be perfect, be authentic, be you, and just do it. I will just say that as short as you can, and take up that 30-day challenge. I'd like to see people try and do that. And if you have any questions on that, you're always welcome to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Is probably the easiest, and I'll be happy to share what I can to assist.
Fantastic. Thank you. That was sort of the next thing I wanted to say as we end off. Please go and connect and follow Peter on LinkedIn, but also go to his YouTube channel. Are all your handles everywhere Money Marks, or do you have different handles for the different platforms?
Yes, it's Money Marks. I think on TikTok and Instagram, it's Mr. Money Marks, because someone took my handle before I could. So yeah, those are the two. But most of my focus is on YouTube, and then the short form content. I'm also still learning and trying to find time for. But yeah, that's LinkedIn is probably the easiest way to get in contact with me.
Awesome. Peter, thank you very much. Very insightful conversation. I hope that we inspired you to go and take your next step and get involved in this. And also, like, make the videos. You don't have to post them. Like, if you like, just get used to that, because I think often people don't like seeing themselves. They don't like hearing themselves specifically. But just do this. The more you do it, the more you realize that is what you sound like, and that is okay. And, let's take that next step and let's build fantastic business. Peter, it's been amazing. Thank you so much. Wishing you a fantastic weekend, and we'll chat soon.
Thank you so much, Francois. Thank you so much for everyone for tuning in. I hope you have a blessed weekend.
Fantastic. Thanks, Peter. Alrighty, fantastic. And so we made it through the day. I've got goosebumps. It was absolutely amazing. Thank you all for joining us today. My guest next week, sorry, I don't have time to go to the comments, but thank you for all the comments. I can see them. It's amazing. Thank you very much for everybody that's engaging. I really appreciate it. But next week, my guest is, wait for it, Hugo van Zyl. So we've got Hugo back. We're going to talk a bit of tax, cross-border tax and all things tax. Hugo is the guy. In my opinion, I've now known Hugo for since 2019, and he is the guy. If there's anything that has the word tax in it, and specifically if it is cross-border, he is my go-to guy. And so we've got Hugo back next week, and we're going to talk about what's happened since, what do people know about. There's lots of changes. I saw there was a constitutional court ruling recently about citizenship and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to talk about all of that next week, and whatever else. So do join us next week. And on that note, apart from saying thank you for being here, do have a fantastic weekend. Be safe, be blessed, and prosper. And do stay curious and continue to raise the bar. Love you lots. Thanks for joining us, and have a fantastic one. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us on Propulsion. If you found value in today's episode, then there's plenty more where this came from. You can find all our previous episodes right here on the podcast, as well as on our YouTube channel. And talking about the YouTube channel, we go live every single Friday at 8 a.m. until 9 a.m. and we host many different guests, and we also talk about very interesting topics. And on the live show, there's also some incredible segments hosted by some of the most well-known and influential financial planning professionals. So you are most welcome to join us every single Friday. Put it in your diary, and we will see you there. And on that note, also please do check out propulsion.co.za/community for all of the goodness, and learn more about how you can become part of our amazing community and how that would benefit you, your business, and your career. So on that note, stay curious and keep raising the bar.